People who dated a porn star, is it as good as people think it is? Went on a few dates with one. First time we met, she wanted to meet at her place. She asked me to bring some shawarma, so I did. She has zero makeup on, not dressed up at all, and kept things non-sexual. The second time I picked her up, and we went out clubbing in West Hollywood. This time she was well dressed up, makeup done, looked stunning. We had a great time and went back to her place. We had amazing sex, but not porn sex, if that makes sense. The next day she did an interview for, I think, Playboy Radio on SXM. They asked her about dating and she mentioned our date last night. I got a shout out, not by name, by what we did, and she noted she had a great time and was taking it slow. The hosts were all like, "Ah." We went one more time after that for dinner and drinks. But then, I don't recall exactly what happened, but she just got more busy. Suddenly I was ghosted. It turns out that she moved to Vegas on a whim. She told me she needed a break and cut all her social. Years later it seems she reactivated her social. She told me she left the industry and was trying to be legit and love a quiet life. She did a bit of work after, I guess for extra money, but mostly she seemed to be wanting a regular life. All her sexy social content was gone, and even images of herself were reduced. That last time was several years ago. She was always sweet and nice to me, but sadly, there was something broken off deep down inside. I could sense it. But I could also tell she really wanted to move past that, and I think her dating regular people and leaving the industry was a part of that process. I sincerely hope she found true happiness and peace. Dated a girl when I was 19. She was wild. Complete opposite of me, and taught me a lot about just not giving a fuck, poster child for social bravery. She always said I was the nicest person she had ever been with, but she had a rough life. Her dad was a Scientologist, and she'd tell me about the men in the church who would pass her around as a kid. The reason I get hostile when Scientologists try to talk to me on the street. In terms of the sex, one night she was on top of me. The room was dark, my hands on her hips, when I felt this sudden hot stinging feeling on my chest. The light switch was right above me, so I turned it on. This insane woman pulled out a razor blade and cut me while riding me. I told her to stop and kept going because, duh. And she did it again. Her taste for extremes was her downfall. She left me for her abusive ex. He put her in the hospital soon after, got her on heroin, forced her into porn, and she had a career for a few years where she was one of the up-and-comers to watch or whatever. We kept in contact, but it was mostly whenever she was down on her luck and needed to talk. She got out of the industry, got clean, had a kid, and a year later relapsed and died. We only dated for a summer, but the impact she had on me, a socially awkward anxiety-filled kid, is something I think about almost every day. I always think about her kid and hope she only got the best of her mom. Back in the mid-90s, I had a job at an upscale strip club, their words. They regularly hosted feature acts, most of whom were active performers in adult films. One weekend, I was tasked with being the handler for one. Pick her up from the airport, drive her to her hotel or wherever she wanted, get her to the club, etc. This particular woman was at the height of her popularity, had a bunch of movies, was a big name in the industry. Picked her up Thursday evening. She was exhausted and wanted sit-down dinner, so I made a few recommendations and she picked one. Said she hated eating alone in strange places, so I joined her. I was feeling weird and didn't want to sound like a creepy fan, so I tried to ask her about anything except her job. I did ask her what a couple of other stars were like when she gave me the window. When I dropped her off at her hotel, I walked her to her door, and she acted like she expected me to try to come up with an excuse to come in, but I just wished her good night and told her to call me when she wanted me to pick her up. I didn't expect to hear from her until it was time to go to the club, but she called in the morning because she wanted to go shopping. So I took her shopping. Then she asked if I had a gym membership somewhere because the hotel gym was disappointing. So I told her she could be my guest. I asked if she was okay with stopping by my apartment so I could get workout clothes, and she was cool with it. It was weird having this porn superstar in my apartment, commenting on my fake Patrick Nagel and Bev Doolittle prints. She said I was possibly the only white guy in America under 35 who didn't have a Scarface poster framed like it's the fucking Mona Lisa. We went to the gym, and then I took her back to her room where she made it clear she wanted me to come in. We ended up in the shower together and fooling around until she decided she wanted dinner before going to the club. She was a hit, obviously. She asked me to spend the night after I drove her back. She looked almost sad when she said, "Please don't try to have intimacy me like we're making a movie." She called it romance novel. She was big into dim light, candlelight, and sticking to face-to-face positions with lots of kissing. We ended up spending every moment she wasn't on stage together acting like a real couple. We exchanged emails and maintained a long-distance relationship for over a year. Every chance she got, she came out to my city and got to be my girlfriend instead of everybody else's girlfriend. The industry really wrecked her mental health, self-esteem in the early years, and the way she acted with me. It felt like I might be one of the only guys who didn't see the porn star. She loved that I asked about her job like it was a regular job. She loved telling me about drama, a gossip. She let me hold her while she sobbed about being sexually assaulted by a male performer at some industry thing. Eventually, the romancy, intimate relationship became too difficult to maintain, and eventually the communication slowed. Meet a woman online years ago. At the time, I was extremely depressed and lonely. We would hang out as friends, eat pizza, and watch movies a few times a week. Found out she was an independent sex worker. She would ask to hang out whenever she didn't have clients, and we were both free. After a few weeks, she wanted to date, which surprised me. Then in the same conversation, she asked me to be her pimp. The most illegal thing I've ever done was get traffic tickets. So this felt like a Walter White moment for me. She was a cool person, but I had to go my separate way after that conversation. To this day, I'm not sure why she asked me to work with her. But wherever she is today, I hope she's doing well. Meet a woman online years ago. At the time, I was extremely depressed and lonely. We would hang out as friends, eat pizza, and watch movies a few times a week. Found out she was an independent sex worker. She would ask to hang out whenever she didn't have clients, and we were both free. After a few weeks, she wanted to date, which surprised me. Then in the same conversation, she asked me to be her pimp. The most illegal thing I've ever done was get traffic tickets. So this felt like a Walter White moment for me. She was a cool person, but I had to go my separate way after that conversation. To this day, I'm not sure why she asked me to work with her. But wherever she is today, I hope she's doing well. I worked in the porn business in the 80s and 90s behind the camera. I dated several of the girls in the business at that time, though rarely anything seriously. Some of them were just really fun to hang out with. One day, I was on a shoot and was filming this incredibly good-looking woman having intimacy. We wound up talking for like 2 hours while we were waiting around for another girl to show up. I asked if she wanted to get dinner. We did. Long story short, we're still married today. So yeah, I get to say the first time I ever met my wife was filming her having intimacy with another guy. Go figure. I was really young and from a small town. She had already gotten a world of experience in getting picked by Penthouse and done a few years of the strip club scene. Our experience levels and lives were significantly different. Was for sure still finding myself. I was talking to a different girl in our astronomy class all semester. She didn't come one day, and my ex swooped in, exchanged numbers. She invited me to the club to watch her work, and I thought I was getting used for money by some stripper, but she actually likes me or just wanted to hook up really. I went to the club and was just super impressed with her spinning on the pole. We took a bunch of drugs for a few days and ended up saying, "We're official." I think she regretted it like a few days later, but really tried to make it work because I was so into it. No matter what I did, I couldn't impress her. I wanted to be a perfect boyfriend. She made a note at the start of the relationship that we would only be cool if I let her do drugs, just weed, and she was high all the time and hook up with this girl she was into, and I obliged. I had a lot of fun and really liked her, but I was way too into it. I moved in like almost immediately. In a few months, she realized it wasn't for her and started behaving way off. She broke it off and then realized she was pregnant a couple days later. She didn't want it, so I took care of her through the abortion. She tried one more time to make it work after that, and it got messy with games back and forth to the point where we both got frustrated and said fuck this. Back in the late 90s, I was in the army and met a woman in the barracks. I was leaving the shower, walking back to my room wearing a towel. She was looking for somebody from Delta Company, but she was on the Charlie Company side of the barracks. I told her that I didn't know where they are, but she could wait in my room. I jokingly mentioned that there were no shirts allowed in my room after 16:30, and she did not hesitate. So here I am with a beautiful half-Korean lady, early 20s, and I'm on cloud 9. She wasn't a porn star, but she worked at a strip club. I got along with her so well that when I got off CQ duty, I would go to her apartment, get into her bed, and she would sleep with me. Just sleep. I didn't want her to think I was just after sex, and we took things really slow. Despite seeing each other in the nude, we didn't ever fool around. Eventually, I insulted her friend, and she got really offended. That was the last time I ever saw her.